where their children are, whether they need to share responsibility for their children, how old they are, all of those things.
I find it extraordinary how the political class in this country still cannot bring themselves to admit that there's a demand problem with regards to the housing crisis in this country.
The left never seems to learn, do they? Over and over again, they show just how disconnected they are from the real struggles of everyday Brits. So, is it really shocking that Reform UK is skyrocketing in the polls? People are tired of the same old political spin. They want real solutions, not empty promises. And nothing makes that clearer than this explosive debate. Reform MP Zia Yusuf took on a panel of so-called experts in a heated discussion about housing. But instead of answering the tough questions, the left stumbled, dodged, and fell flat on their faces. Yusuf exposed the flaws in their arguments so brutally that they were left speechless. It was pure political carnage. This clip perfectly captures why more and more people are walking away from establishment parties in search of real change. So, let's dive in and break it all down.
Pace, we should get that done. When we look at things like the housing crisis that we have in the UK, which is both a supply issue and a quality issue in other parts of the country, we know that build-out rates around new infrastructure are much faster than they are elsewhere. So new infrastructure development for transport will deliver more homes. That's good.
You're shaking your head, Zia.
I find it extraordinary how the political class in this country still cannot bring themselves to admit that there's a demand problem with regards to the housing crisis in this country. We talk about supply. What about the demand? So if you look over the last 3 years, 2 million net new people arrived in the country. The country built 600,000 new homes. It's as good as we've done in several decades. You take Labour's existing target to build 1.5 million new homes. By their own statistics, we're going to add 2.5 million net new people in that time. So we're building nowhere near enough homes, even if they hit that target, which they won't for the reason we just described. And then we look at what's happened today in terms of the ONS, who have said we're going to add another 5 million net new people. That is net migration staying at 700,000 per year. There is no way we are ever going to build enough homes to cater for that demand. And we are never even talking about it. Reform are the only party who actually understand that the housing crisis in this country is a supply and a demand problem.
There is also major vacancies across the construction sector and has been for a very, very long time. Young British people are simply not choosing to go into those professions. You ask any of the major organisations that represent the construction sector, they are saying the jobs are there. These are good jobs. These are good jobs outside of London and in other parts of the country. But we have both a skills issue and then an inclination issue to go into these roles. And that, I'm afraid, is part of the issue about why we need to talk about Europe and the relationship with Europe, and perhaps some kind of youth mobility scheme for young people in order to try and fill some of those vacancies.
Is the population explosion not an issue then? You do not think that the population explosion, net migration staying at 700,000 a year, you don't think that's a problem contributing to the housing crisis?
What we have had in this country is a very serious housing problem for a very, very long time, far longer than we've seen large levels of migration over the last decade or so. It predates that. I couldn't get on the housing ladder when I first started working. That was a very long time ago. What we've got to think about is both the quality issue in certain parts of the country as well as the supply side and the pressures on that demand. And what we've got in this country is we have poorly managed population growth. When we look at other countries who have done it much better, I would look at Canada for that as an example of how to manage population change in a much less laissez-faire way than we've had
poll ratings would suggest that he's done a good job.
All right, well, let's I would like to get... And that means you would lower the levels of net migration.
Well, if we've got people doing the jobs here, then yes, we will be able to do that. And we've already said that we would want to be able to lower the levels of net migration as people increase their skills in this country.
Is there
That's why we've committed to Skills England as well.
Well, sharing the
just said that the population in this country, we're going to have 5 million net new people.
I think it's about 330,000
It's also people living longer, it's people getting divorced and living apart, it's people having different lifestyles as well. I think we need to acknowledge that people live in a very different way from when most of our homes were built.
How does someone's different lifestyle affect population growth?
Well, because of where they choose to live, how close they are to where they live, how big they want their homes to be, who they choose to live with, where their children are, whether they need to share responsibility for their children,
the number
how
of people
old
that the
they are.
population is going
All
to grow
of those
by.
things change the kind of homes we need to have. And those kind of things mean that we need to think about building those homes in the right places, in the right design, for the right people.
That's an issue of dispersal of people
and
concentration of
people.
people.
In terms of economic growth.
And I absolutely agree, that's one thing, but the overarching factor that is going to override this government for the next 4 or 5 years is net migration adding to the total population at the scale that is predicted is not going to be sustainable and is going to cause this government all sorts of problems, potentially with community cohesion. There's going to be a big breakdown coming in the future. I mean, Zia's here, Reform are all over this, right? They're not going away. It has to be grappled with. We can't pretend that it's all going to be okay. We have to answer these difficult questions. Well,
if you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to like and share. Drop a comment below. Do you think Reform UK is the real alternative? And of course, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the latest updates.